got Alexa and Google. Everyone's got them in their homes.
Yeah.
I know mine's mostly just an egg timer at the moment.
Mine's that and a Bluetooth
Mine's
speaker.
a radio.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never talk to mine. It's really weird. I just use it as...
Doesn't listen to them.
Yeah. What would you ask her if you had the chance?
What would I ask you? I'd ask her to start replying to my wife because she thinks that it doesn't like her. Right. She doesn't respond to her.
Yeah, causing some rifts.
Actually.
The other woman. Yeah.
Welcome to the Cutting Room Podcast, brought to you by 7 Videos and me, Paul Sherwood. Each week we'll be cutting through the things that you want to know about video marketing. 7 Videos have been going for nearly 10 years now, and over that time we've had many achievements but also learnt a lot of things along the way. This podcast is an opportunity for us to share all that knowledge and all that experience with you. Each episode is going to focus on a different topic, concluding with our 7 top tips that you can start to put into action in your business. As with all podcasts out there, you know the drill. If you think it's any good, don't forget to give us a follow and keep up to date on when the next episode drops. Hello and welcome to episode 11 of The Cutting Room, and this week we're going to be talking all about the impact that AI is having on the video industry. Now, it's a hot topic. People have been speaking a lot about it, particularly in these last few months, so we thought it'd be a really great opportunity to sort of share our thoughts and the impacts that we're seeing in our sort of day-to-day life running a video production agency. I'm Paul Sherwood, one of the founders of 7 Videos, and I'm joined by another founder, Joe.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing today, Joe? You good?
Very well. Very well. Excited to be back.
Good. Glad to have you back. And also in the other hot seat, we've got Michael, our customer success manager.
Big title.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to getting into this. Really, I know the reason you two are here because you two are sort of the more advanced in terms of the sort of research and the stuff you've been doing with AI. So I know I'm probably going to be taking a bit of a back seat on this one, which I'm more than happy with.
Learning a little bit.
Yeah, I'm here to learn just as much as the viewers and listeners are as well.
Yeah.
So we've got some really good stuff to get through. So I think to kick us off, really, what I was wanting to talk about is obviously AI has kind of bursted on the scene, particularly in these last few months. Oh, just before I get into it as well, I wanted to say that at the time, this is being recorded on Friday the 23rd of June. So depending on when the edit goes out, like there may have been some crazy advancements in AI technology. Yeah. So all of this is up to date as of the 23rd of June.
So we might not even be doing it next time.
Yeah, it might even be us. You know.
AI avatars.
It could just be robots. Yeah.
Are you testing that at the moment?
I am actually. I was going to say that for next week's episode.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
So to get us started, what I wanted to sort of touch on is that, yes, it's burst on the scene and it's the most hotly discussed topic, particularly in the business world. But it's been around for a while, and I think it'd be good to sort of touch on some forms of AI that people have been using sort of day to day for a number of years.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, I think it's been around for, like you say, years and years, but there's things like predictive text, the form of AI. You've got Alexa and Google. Everyone's got them in their homes.
Yeah.
I know mine's mostly just an egg timer at the moment.
Mine's that and a Bluetooth
Mine's
speaker.
a radio.
Exactly. Yeah.
I never talk to mine. It's really weird. I just use it as...
Doesn't listen to them.
Yeah. What would you ask her if you had the chance?
What would I ask you? I'd ask her to start replying to my wife because she thinks that it doesn't like her. Right. She doesn't respond to her.
Yeah, causing some rifts.
Actually.
The other woman. Yeah.
But you're right. Like this sort of technology has been around, just not to this level. And by no means are we experts in AI at all. But there has been elements of it in terms of what we use. It's all algorithmic. Like a lot of the ads, Google ads, things like that are all algorithms kind of tied
it's all
in.
built on it, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, in my limited knowledge, like
I think that's the interesting thing is there's people there that are like quite worried about what it's going to bring, but a lot of people have been using forms of it for a number of years, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Unknowingly.
Yeah, unknowingly. Facial recognition for phones. I just wanted to get that one in because that was one that I knew. So, that's a form of AI.
Yeah, I think it's only because sort of ChatGPT has sort of really exploded onto the scene. Like everyone's talking about it. You see it all over LinkedIn, and that sort of really brought it to the forefront, which has sort of really caused like the got the ball rolling with it all.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I remember like in November, was it around that time, you'd see like the odd post on LinkedIn about something ChatGPT had done. I was like, no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And then had a little look into it. And I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
And like you realise all the things that you can do with it. And then, like you say, I think ChatGPT coming out and then releasing its APIs to other software companies who can then build these really powerful apps with their model has just exploded with.
Yeah, it's snowballed, hasn't it? So
Yeah.
I think it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different apps now, all built on the same sort of API. So just making use of that.
And how do you feel about it?
I don't feel either way at the moment. I'm sort of just waiting to see what happens with it all. I think as long as you know a little bit about it and you are using it, I think you'll probably stay ahead of it. Not ahead of it, but with it at
Good
least.
luck.
Yeah, I think for me, like I'm excited from a business perspective because I think there's a lot of efficiencies you can bring in that respect. I think on a general sort of scale, I'm a little bit sort of wary of it. You know, having a 2-year-old son, just like what world's he sort of coming into in 20 years time? Like it just absolutely boggles my mind as to what will be going on then.
Yeah. It's probably like the generation before us thought about the internet, though, isn't it? So
Well, yeah, everyone thought that
it's gonna ruin
Y2K,
everything.
millennium bug, end of the world, and
this could actually be
we're
the
all
end of the
still
world.
here.
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
And it's that pivotal, if not
Yeah.
more. I would probably say, or I think it's more revolutionary than the internet.
There's a lot of conflicting views from experts or so-called experts as well. People saying that it will steal people's jobs, other people saying that you just need to learn and understand it.
But
But as any innovation is going to steal jobs in any industry. Like
otherwise,
in our industry, going digital, that would have lost some jobs in in some respects.
Yeah, and it massive, and it creates a lot of jobs because we'd have never been able to set up a video production company if we were still using film.
Yeah,
because first of all, it's very expensive. It's not as accessible, and I'd probably say most of us that have learned it have only been able to do that with it being digital. And as it's kind of progressed, it's got more affordable, lower barrier to entry, and that's kind of what I see AI doing as well, but on a
just removing
much
that
bigger
friction.
scale.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess you went to the media production show recently and they were talking a lot about it, sort of what were your learnings from that?
Yes, it was everywhere. Literally, that's what everyone talked about. And it's certainly like a lot of mixed views, a lot of people who are scared of taking jobs, others concerned that it's not creative enough and it'll be a lot of bland content. And I think there was a really interesting talk by one guy, and he was kind of he was touching on kind of how it all came about, and that, like, look, these models aren't new. They've been doing these for the last 10, 15 years in academic settings. What GPT did was then bring it out to the public, which is where it's come. But like again, they use similar analogies around digital film, all these different progressions of kind of the industry of how we've improved new technology.
It evolves,
it evolves, and yes, people will lose jobs, but it will also create a lot of other jobs, and it's interesting when people talk about creativity with it, and because I think you hear a lot of people online talk about like general bland content that can come if you're just using what ChatGPT shows you. But I actually think, that's right, but you can also, because it opens it up to so many different people who wouldn't normally be able to access it. Anyone can create really creative different things without that traditional.
I think it enables a lot of people who aren't probably traditionally creative to be a bit more creative and sort of generate more ideas as well, which is sort of.
And that's one thing I found it really useful for, is just generating ideas that don't come naturally to me. Yeah. Just type in a few different things and I think, that's really good, and you can kind of
tweak it,
kind of elaborate it further. Yeah. But it's that sort of starting point of an idea.
Yeah. A lot of the time I spend sort of sitting there for like 10, 15 minutes trying to get my head around something. And if you just type it into, say, ChatGPT, it'll probably give you a couple of ideas just to get you going. Sort of a bit of a jump start for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. Same for me. Like, that's always a bit I find the hardest with anything, is putting something on a page, and this just kind of, this particular one kind of helps with that, which is
cool. So we're gonna touch on the impact it's going to have within marketing and the video production sort of industry. Just quickly before we do, on a bit more of a light-hearted note, there has been some quite weird and wonderful uses of AI, which we were sort of chatting about off camera, which I thought might be worse.
Yeah.
What other sort of ways is it being used in a less business sense?
So apart from Alexa, Joe's other wife, there's also, I think there's an influencer who's released their own.
You sent us a link?
Yeah, I sent you a link for it. Yeah. But yeah, an influencer has released her image to everyone and said that they're able to use her image and her voice, I think, so she can become a virtual girlfriend.
Yeah, and you kind of have conversations with her.
Yeah,
it's $1 a minute. I saw that.
Is that $1 a minute?
I didn't look too
that
much
was
into
backstage.
it.
Yeah.
There's another cool one which I think is it called Speechify, and you can get like Snoop Dogg to read you any book. Like you just type in the text and it'll put it in his voice.
Amazing.
And loads of other different people as well.
Has he licensed that? How does that work?
Yeah, I think they must have done.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works, but
yeah, I saw another one which was basically if you doodle something like a sketch, you can then animate it. You put it into the system and it'll animate it for you. It doesn't do it very well, but I think I showed Chris it the other day, and you sort of just does like dances and things like that. But it's good for kids' stories. So if you combine a couple of them, you can do something quite nice with it, couldn't you?
That's quite cool. I think there's a lot you can do with animation.
Yeah.
There's going to be all sorts of weird and wonderful things, I'm sure, over the coming years. So it might be a few more episodes within that. We'll see.
Yeah.
But moving on to, I guess, the kind of main reason I wanted to sort of chat through today is to see the impact that we see it having on the video industry, on the marketing industry. I think the first place to start is ChatGPT that we've sort of referenced. What impact are we seeing with that, and how are marketers and other people sort of using it to help benefit their video projects?
I think starting, especially with sort of like we just touched on the idea generation, that's always like the good starting point. Sort of putting a brief into ChatGPT, as well as anything, it's almost like you need to ask it good questions to get a good response out of it. A lot of people sort of start with it and then don't put a good question into it, don't sort of detail their points they want to cover or the actions they want from it.
And I think that's where I'm at with it. I'm quite new to it, and I've not been bowled over by a lot of the responses I've got, but I'm fully aware that that's down to what prompts I'm putting in there, and I'm not being specific enough, because you'll read something like, oh, that just looks like a load of crap there, but it's because I've been really generic in the question I've asked.
I think that's it. I think if you are more sort of specific with what you want out of it, it'll give you a much more specific answer. I think we tried it with sort of scripting and things like that. It's really good for that. You can put in sort of, if you like a copywriter style, you can say analyze this style and create me a script in this style, which is quite a nice way of using it. Yeah,
and if you can give it as much information, so as much of that to kind of train it up into that style, then the better it is. But I think you're right. And again, I think that can be the misconception from some people. Like you put one thing in, oh, that was shit.
Yeah.
But actually, it's all about the iterations and how often you're going back to it.
Yeah, because it does learn as you're going through it.
Yeah. I mean, I spent 2 days talking to it when I was at the media production show. Maybe I went on my own, but
it's a bit lonely. But if you think about Google when that kind of first came out and to what it is now, like it's a lot more intuitive in terms of the things you're searching for. Like back in the day, you'd get all sorts of crap that wasn't really that relevant to what you were searching. You had to get really specific, and I imagine it's just going to be the same with that.
Yeah, and I think what's really exciting now is all the different softwares and applications that you can use ChatGPT in, or Google Bard.
Like plugins and things like that as well, that you can sort of like analyse a PDF for you.
Yeah.
So you could do it with, say, if you want to understand sort of your brand's sort of tone of voice, you can ask it to analyse that tone of voice and write articles in that.
Yeah.
So for like blog posts and things like that.
And it's also one thing I found which is quite good is getting it to critique it, and you can get it to critique it
from a viewpoint.
Yeah, so I've done it before where you've got to act like Steve Jobs, and I want you to analyse our whatever it is marketing piece and critique it as if you're Steve Jobs, and then it'll critique it, and then I'll be like, right, now can you implement those changes? Yeah.
What did Steve have to say about it?
I said it was amazing. No. And then, so make a few points, and then you go back and be like, right, now can you critique it again? And it was like, yeah, it's really good, but then there's these bits. I was like, right,
Yeah, so you can
now
really
can you
refine
add that
it.
in again? So it's all the different iterations that you do where you get the most value out of it. Just you need to keep kind of coaching it. And to be honest, there's a bit of an art form in that. Like, I think there is a real skill, which I haven't learned yet. I just...
Is it almost two-way in the fact that we're still learning how to operate it and that the program is still learning itself as well? I'm presuming that's probably going to learn a bit quicker than we are.
Especially with all the amount of people that are putting things into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot more than what's going into our individual minds,
Yeah.
thankfully. As well.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting over time. Like, it's just getting so much better.
How can you control what's getting put into it, or how do you have any?
I think there is a big sort of moral standpoint at the moment as to what is actually going on with it. And sort of, who's putting things into it, who's sort of giving it opinions.
Yeah.
But at the moment, they don't have anything that is stopping that, do they?
No.
Because it's on the open web, I could put what I want in it.
Yeah.
Which is a bit scary.
Yeah.
Which is why there's so much sort of talk around regulation there. So I guess that's another podcast as well, but
yeah.
Not for...
We'll save that for another day.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we've touched on helping to sort of generate ideas, critiquing briefs. I think that's very much on the sort of text-based side of things. I guess in terms of, let's say, a video project and how we can sort of keep costs down, what ways are we seeing AI being used to help keep costs down?
There's a number of things, like we mentioned, like with ChatGPT and GPT, you've got that API, which has then led on to loads of other apps online where you can create stuff. So there's a lot of video editing ones now online, which the video editing tools online isn't particularly new or even templated stuff, but you can use some of the GPT functions to generate ideas. So there's a video one where you can put in your blog post and it will summarize that blog post into 5 key statements, and then it will match stock footage to those 5 key statements, and then you've got a little short video.
Yeah. I saw one which is sort of a piece to camera one, and it sort of analyzes your script and finds relevant B-roll to put over the top of it. Now, it's not perfect, but it's a nice sort of cheap, easy option to use.
It is, and I think that's the thing with a lot of them. Like, you look at it now and you're like, yeah, it's not mind-blowing, but Jesus, where will it be in 6 months? Or a year's time? Like, it will be phenomenal what you can do with it. And I think particularly for people who don't have that skill set, people in potentially like marketers, without always having to go to a video production company, you've got some of these tools out there which...
Well, it's going to impact our industry massively, because if it's enabling people to make a lot more of their own content, which...
Yeah, a lot more often as well.
Yeah. So, from our perspective, we're looking at ways in which we can provide sort of regular content by creating our own sort of like retainer style model where we're providing regular content at a much sort of cost effective price point for our clients. But how do you compete with just go and make a load yourself? Obviously there's the quality side and the understanding, and there's that, but I guess from our perspective we need to be thinking in a couple of years time we could have some really serious competition. It's how we can stay ahead of it and leverage it to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve.
That's it. I think it is leveraging it. I think it's just utilising what we've got available and sort of learning and understanding it. So we can sort of offer it to clients and say, this is sort of a solution for your budget.
If we don't, we will we'll get eaten up by it.
Yeah.
And I think it will result in a lot of video companies, not just video companies, but other companies, similar issue, like people who just think, oh no, I'm not going to get involved, I'll ignore it, I don't like it, or whatever. Yeah. It will eventually catch up. Like you say, if you can leverage it, and I've already looked at, I sat down with the editors of ways how we can make the edit process more efficient, like getting them to help with cutting down footage, organising footage, all jobs which don't need you don't need to be creative. It's just the more the laborious tasks, then we can be more creative.
You look at platforms like Vimeo that are implementing sort of subtitling services, things like that as well. So it makes things a little bit easier from our sense in that it's all sort of like a one place. So you can just put everything into it and just get your subtitles out of it. But like you say, it does make it a little bit more tricky when quoting projects and actually making sure people get value for money.
Yeah. I mean, there's still obviously the skill aspect in terms of the experience that we can put into a project, in terms of understanding specifics and nuances about clients and what they're wanting to achieve. But yeah, I mean, it's all that in the next next few years.
And that's the thing to bear in mind. Like some of these things we're talking about, yeah, they're really good if you don't have that skill set and you don't have the budget to get somebody in. But at this moment in time, it's not there.
Yeah.
It will be.
Unless Elon invents that Neuralink thing and makes it work and everyone has AI in the brains, then that'd be really scary.
Oh, yeah, that would.
You know too much.
I think our next episode, because we're going to sort of do a double header on this, we're going to be talking about some of our sort of favourite tools.
Yeah.
But just whilst we're on it, you know, we've mentioned Chat GPT quite a lot, reference Google Bard, but is there anything else, other things that we're, you know, one or two sort of tools that we're coming across quite a lot regularly?
Yeah, like the big ones are the kind of text to image ones where you put in a prompt, describe something, and then it comes up with a picture that resembles that.
Yeah, or you can put in an image and
What's
then
an
get
example of that then?
Yeah, Midjourney is probably the main one. There's probably DALL-E 2 as well, which isn't as good. The issue with Midjourney is that you have to use it on Discord, which is a platform in itself, and it's not particularly user friendly.
Right.
But the stuff it produces is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been looking at it to create artwork for my house, for my new house.
Right.
Just type in.
You can ask it to create
what have you searched? Just I don't want to leave that point actually.
Yeah, go on.
So specifically, what were you searching to create artwork for your house?
First one was Alex Turner riding a jet ski on a
thought
motor.
If I could have guessed,
And then it doesn't do people like that particularly well. Will did a really good Donald Trump, massive donut, which came out pretty well.
Can we get these images shown up on the edit?
Yes, yeah.
Donald Trump.
Jaya, who'll be editing it, she's done some funny ones, so I'll get her to put some.
Hey, drop them in for us.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
What was that, Donald?
Eating a giant donut. Then Will did Boris Johnson riding a really tiny bike, which is quite good. We'll get them all up. There's some. It is really fun, if not anything.
It's good for celeb faces, but for normal faces, it's got no idea what a face looks like.
Why did you try yours?
I tried mine, yeah.
They not recognise you.
You can ask it to create avatars of yourself, you can ask it to create things in specific styles or specific artist styles and things like that.
Right.
Or for us, sort of specific cameras and specific grades
on
the colours and things like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned like lenses, types of cameras, everything.
Yeah.
Like
size.
And it looks amazing. Like you mentioned DALL-E and a couple of others. They're not as good, but they're a lot more user-friendly. But there's also like...
that sounds really fun, all that, but how, bringing it back to, you know, the business aspects, how can people what can those tools do to help people?
I think from a marketing...
Other than having a laugh of seeing...
Yeah, I think from a marketing side, you could probably look at using... generating logos. If you're going through a rebrand, you could look at sort of suggesting logos. You can analyze your logo and say, can you create this in a specific style? There's probably things you can do around sort of creating concepts. I saw a really good video about sort of a guy who combined IKEA and Patagonia, those two brands, to create like a whole sort of suite of images for creative concepts, which is really cool.
Right.
It took him a couple of days to actually do it because he wasn't prompting it in the right way. But once he got around that, it worked out really nicely.
And I think that's what it's good for, is visualization. So we've tried it for storyboards, typing a prompt to then give you a good visualization without actually having to go anywhere, set stuff up to test it out. You can just kind of, an idea you have in your head, you can prompt it and bring out something that looks pretty cool.
And that's where it can help, is clients, like you say, sometimes they've got a bit of an idea, but they can't really articulate it. So you can just go and lay all that out and spout it all out, and then when you start to see some of the imagery come back, you're like, that's what I'm kind of thinking. I was working on a proposal recently, and it said it's about it's a food group, and it's about sort of like good food, and an image that they had in their proposal was an image of like a family in a field. So I went on Midjourney and created a similar image as like a continuation of that, which it did quite easily. Quite good just to include that, so that's quite a nice way of doing it. Yeah, it's good from our perspective, because like you say, it helps to kind of showcase the visual aspects and aids our sort of sales process, really, in terms of Yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. So, right, any other tools? Midjourney we mentioned there.
Yeah.
I know we'll obviously get into the specifics next time
think
round.
The big one, I think, at the moment that you see all over LinkedIn is like Adobe's Photoshop extensions, which is Adobe Firefly. Yeah, and that's being branched out to After Effects and all the different video tools as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's quite exciting. Just
Without changing the backgrounds and doing all different things like that.
Change everything.
Do everything
Yeah.
you do
It's
text to image as
text
well.
to image. Yeah.
I think the other thing as well, like we've talked a bit about text to image and Midjourney, but then the next big one is eventually is text to video.
Yeah.
Which isn't there yet. But
They have done some of those just purely
Yeah.
AI generated videos, haven't they? So they're a bit. Did KFC do it? On
they have, but it's if you watch them, they're not fully done by AI. It's a bit of
right.
They say it is on, like you'll see it on LinkedIn, and then
Yeah.
you look into it. There's a whole load of visual effects.
Yeah,
stuff
it's a whole
that they
team
have.
of people.
There's a
behind
Coca-Cola one,
it. Yeah.
and it was like it's a bit misleading to say it was done by AI.
Yeah.
Just it's not like Midjourney. You've typed in a few prompts. It's like they did film a lot, but they used AI as part of it.
Yeah.
From the ones I'd seen, but there is, I know at the moment, which we talked about in the next episode, is that Opus where you can do video to video where, and again, it's in its early stages, but you could put, say, I don't know, a video we've created, so it's a live action video, you can then put it through and turn it into any style that you want. So you could turn it into like a rotoscope animation or things like that. So I think that's probably
perfect for things like this as well, like podcasting. It cuts down into socials and things like that, doesn't it? So
yeah. Again, there's
If you're watching this as a social cut, then
yeah, could have been done through that.
we might have done it. They might have done it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Blue Joe.
we don't know.
Yeah, sorry, that was actually Runway I meant. Opus is the one you
Yeah,
just mentioned
sorry,
then. I meant, sorry, I got it wrong. So it's Runway that does the video to video.
Right.
So get that mistake out now before the next one.
I mean, I all just went.
Yeah.
in my head,
Angry
so.
people in the comments.
Will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there, I think, that will be amazing.
And in terms of, so we look at sort of saving time, reducing cost. How is AI being used to make things better? Not better, because we've obviously touched on that. But how is it improving quality? Away from the idea generation side, but I guess the sort of specifics we were talking about.
It just makes quality a bit more accessible. I think I got one through the other day, just a video. It was a webinar. Sound wasn't particularly great, and you can put it into a system. I think it's Descript.
Yeah.
And it'll enhance the audio. Now, it didn't come out perfectly, but it sounded a lot better than it did to start with.
Yeah, and when you say not very good, it was horrific.
Yeah.
like
It was noisy.
yeah, it would take an editor. Well, it would take an experienced sound guy.
So
to
if Kay's
get
dog
to,
starts barking now,
and we'll
just
put
cut
it
that?
through there.
We can just cut it out.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah,
Oh, we should
never
have told
existed.
that before.
yeah. And there's stuff like traditionally, if we were using green screen, like there's again Runway does it where just with a touch of a button you just draw around something and then click remove background, bang, gone.
Just think how popular
Like-
that would have been back in the day. You know, when with the old cameras, when you used to like have your picture taken in front of a landmark or something. There's always
Yeah.
someone like
yeah.
stood behind you eating an ice cream or something.
Yeah, and there's also like upscaling videos. So if you've got like a really old
Low
low
res.
res one, you can kind of upscale it as well. So I think they're
Yeah.
just a couple of the things you can do in terms of improving quality.
Yeah.
And I think what it does, it's more accessible to people. Like previously, you wouldn't be able to do that.
You say accessible, it gives you a free plan, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's going to cost you $70 for the next 10 images.
Yeah, that's still more accessible than I suppose.
I've been conned already. I had one
What
come
was
out,
it?
it's like $150 or something, but just for a social platform. It didn't work very well.
Was
I never used it, and it's got charged $150. I did manage to get it back. Thank you for that.
I suppose they are going to have to like monetize it, aren't they? That's
Yeah.
what the aim of the game is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's probably the issue at the moment. There's so many of them trying to monetize something
Yeah.
that isn't actually completely there.
But if you find the right one, it's like, well, to take my money because it's
Yeah.
not that, they're not expensive price
Yeah.
points.
I think everyone's signing up for the free trial as well, and they're probably catching quite a few people out.
Yeah.
So they're probably making a fair bit of money, the people who aren't doing particularly good things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably another conversation with, I guess the pitfalls and dangers, I guess. But I think for this week, I feel like we've sort of got into it, covered a lot of good points there, kind of touched on kind of sharing our opinions on AI, what types of things we've been seeing, sort of looking at how it's going to impact people within marketing. Anything else you guys wanted to add before we get out of this boiling hot room?
No, I think it'd just be interesting to talk about the next tools, the next one.
So that pretty much brings us to a conclusion for this week's episode. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Michael, for joining me. Thanks to you for listening and or watching this week's episode of The Cutting Room. Next week, we're going to be talking about the AI tools that people are using to help create video projects. So we're going to get into the more specifics around the tools that we're seeing and share a bit more sort of insight on that. So stay tuned for that. If you've liked what you've seen, give us a like, give us a follow, and don't forget to tell all your friends about us. And we look forward to seeing you next week in The Cutting Room.